Welcome to Casual Watch Talk, the podcast from the Casual Watch Reviewer YouTube channel. Join us as we talk everything watches, from watch collecting, the latest horology news and interviews. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe on your favourite podcast app. Let's dive into the show. Frederique Constant released a watch that beats at 288,000 beats per hour. Rolex is abuzz with rumours for next week's watch releases. G-Shock are hitting the new releases hard, including an Android OS powered watch. Non-fungible tokens make their way into the watch world. And Hodinkee release an oddly timed watch on the 1st of April and completely missed the irony. Welcome to Casual Watch Talk. You're joined by Sam and Chris. How have you been, Chris?
I don't know. Pretty good. Getting warmer.
So should we kick it off with a wristwatch check this week? What have you been wearing?
Oh, okay. Yeah, change it up. I am wearing the 104 white dial on the Fine Link bracelet. Very looking pro fancy. I talked about it a couple times, and over on our Facebook group mentioned it, and so found the links. It was funny. The guys were ribbing me over there like it was some big accomplishment, like I got a raise or my, achieved a life goal or something. They're like, oh, congratulations. So feels good on the wrist, and it's getting a little, it's getting lots of wrist time.
Yeah. And join us over on the Facebook group, guys. It's really, we actually got quite a lot of new members this week. So welcome everyone that joined if you're watching the podcast. Well, I'm wearing the Marathon. I love this watch, this quartz Marathon. The T-SAR, I think it is. I keep wanting to call it the G-SAR. It's the T-SAR. And I keep forgetting that I've got that X33 because it's still at the jewelers.
Yeah, it'll be a surprise when it comes back.
Yeah, I keep forgetting it. And I have, if you've not seen the new NASA Velcro straps for the Omega watches, I've got one of those on order from Omega. It's $190 for a Velcro strap.
But it's an Omega part number, so of course it is. You're paying OEM prices there. Yeah, and you've got the Marathon on the bracelet as well. It looks good.
Well, yeah, it's not the Marathon bracelet. It's actually one from WatchGecko. WatchGecko had another awesome sale, as they do. I think it worked out as $40. It's their riveted bracelet. So it only just arrived, but I had been wearing it on the elastic strap that I experimented with. But I'll do that on another show. I've been experimenting with making
tease that.
Well, now let's look at this week in watches. First story is Rolex are going to be releasing some new watches, it's rumored. And Watch Pro, they think that the Explorer reference 216570 is going to be updated, and that the Air King and the Milgauss will probably be updated or leave Rolex's portfolio entirely. They're also speculating that there's going to be something big for the Explorer 2's 50th birthday. The most interesting story I saw on this, and I'll get your feedback on this, Paul Thorpe did a complete breakdown of all of the rumors. But his top rumor was that he thinks Tudor are going to do a Tudor sub. He also speculated that there's going to be something big for the Explorer 2, that the 39mm Explorer might be discontinued. He also thinks there's going to be a Platinum Submariner, a Rose Gold Submariner. The Submariners might come on the Oyster Flex bracelets, and that the Wimbledon dial might go. He also thinks that the Milgauss might go or might come back. I don't know if have you seen his video, or have you seen any of the others on the rumors?
I have not. I've not delved too deep into the rumors. I mean, there's a lot out there, and there's a lot. I think there's a lot of that. I think I've sort of heard, and sort of kind of goes with what has happened in the last couple of releases, especially on just the coming out on just the rubber strap, and then like rose gold on the rubber strap and things like that. You've got the Explorer 2 and the Milgauss. I mean, those are arguably sort of late. I would even say maybe latecomers to the Rolex hype machine. I don't know, what are we calling it? Maybe 4 years ago, 3 years ago. I don't think a Polar Explorer was as held in higher regard, or a Milgauss was held in anywhere near a higher regard as some of their other pieces, Basic Submariner or Daytona, etc. And I think they've come forward, so it'll be interesting for Rolex to sort of acknowledge that these are now sought after.
Yeah.
And and so everybody that and I certainly see it with the Submariner, the ceramics, and then now the older ceramics and the different case styles. When they start discontinuing those colors and then they change out and come a new, you get the situation where it's like, no one really wanted to buy the Milgauss, or no one really wanted to buy a Polar Dial Explorer 2 4 years ago, but now they don't make them anymore. And so then and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is now a thing. So it'll be interesting to see what changes.
Yeah, it's that old thing with the Paul Newman dial, wasn't it? They used to say at the time that wasn't a very sought after model.
They have definitely mentioned that it was not a popular model by any means, and he happened to catch on to one.
I'll leave a link to Paul Thorpe's video. He did a great job of it. If he's right, I'm interested in seeing a Submariner in rose gold. I think it would look pretty cool, depending on what the colour scheme was. So it'll be all to play for. You'll see no shortage, I'm guessing, of YouTube videos as soon as they release them. I don't typically do them because I'm not a real Rolex expert, to be honest. I appreciate them for what they are, but I'm not an expert by any means. Let's roll into the next story here, and this watch looks incredible. I can't wait to see one in person if there would be an opportunity, but Frederique Constant have released a watch that beats at 288,000 vibrations per hour. To put that into perspective, that's 80 ticks per second, or 40 hertz it's beating at. They've basically created a silicon oscillator. It looks like it's an evolution of mechanical movements. That one oscillating piece replaces 26 of the watch's components. Have you seen this, Chris?
Yeah. I saw the release video of it and that close-up animation video of the oscillation that the piece of silicone is doing. And I mean, I guess without watching it, I mean, I know you'll pop it up, but it looks like basically it goes left and right, and it like climbs up the small gear in the middle. I mean, it's so fascinating of a movement of how they've sort of designed it to operate in that manner. Yeah, I think this is perfect between a spring drive movement and a typical escapement in, say, an original ETA movement with the jewels and the different pieces that have to be lubricated. So it takes all of the stuff that needs super special lubrication and super special timing, and it brings it into basically this plate. And now we talked a little bit about like silicon, but from what I know from silicon manufacturing, I know from computers. And so I wouldn't be shocked if it's the same way. Well, how you make a silicone wafer, and it's a fascinating process. Definitely like find a YouTube video. It's one crystal of silicone. So it's so incredibly strong that you can take like a giant lump of it and dangle it from a single strand, like for hundreds of meters, because it's one giant crystal. So it gets its, ultimate strength out of that. And then they cut that into wafers. So if it's the same sort of wafer technology, I mean, it's like super strong. And then as far as like the oscillating, I don't know if you noticed this, but the other thing I was geeking out on is it looks like they have little weights on the left and right hand side that sort of specify like, this is the tick, this is the talk, and like how that goes back and forth. I don't know if I'd want to sit behind an oscilloscope and set those, because just the absolute tiniest movement is gonna pull that out of. But if they can figure out how robots can just set that from the factory, this is a big jump.
Yeah. Now I think they've refined this technology. I couldn't find it where they invented it, but I think what they've done is not only have they created the movement very thin. Now, I couldn't find any reference to Frederique Constant owned by Citizen.
Yeah.
Not sure if Citizen's manufacturing is making these. I think they're calling it in-house, but I couldn't find. I think it's just still too early to find out who's actually making these. But they can make it very thin. But one of the surprising things is apparently it's that they've managed to do it at this price point, and they're knocking these out at less than $5,000 when it comes out. I mean, they're dress pieces that I'm not crazy about.
Yeah, maybe not
them,
my style. Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that has been, Frederique Constant has really gone into that market where they have identified, and we definitely have talked about them, that they've identified, okay, so we want to be affordable for the folks looking for that luxury dress watch. You know, obviously we both hate the term affordable luxury. We hate that term, but there is a market that exists between this looks like $1 million, but is a bit more expensive than a dive watch from Tudor. And so there's plenty of room there where they can go. And I think they really have captured that. I think they've captured that market with their manufacturer line. Their some of their pieces is just, their moon phase stuff is cool. I definitely want my next dress watch to be Frederique Constant. So yeah, I mean, this hits. I think this hits for them. As far as what the value that they're offering, what did you say? 80 times 80 ticks a second.
Talk about smooth. I know the sweep on that, and it'll be interesting, won't it? Because that price point, that'll be RRP, of course. But that price point, that's cheaper than Grand Seiko starts at. Right. Yeah. So I find that really interesting. Yeah,
that'll be a fun game changer, and that'll be interesting to see if Citizen and different, because they have Alpine, so they could put it into a diver, a Flieger, a pilot watch, whatever. So it'll be very interesting to see. If they can sort of market it. I mean, here they definitely marketed it in the way that you can see it.
Like an open heart, yeah.
Right, yeah. So they're showing off their silicone technology. So, yeah, super excited.
I know we're not going into this in a lot of depth. I'm sure people want more depth, but I couldn't find a lot of depth about this story. But we'll roll into the next story and going a little bit, I guess, high-tech again. I don't know if you've been looking at G-Shock this week, but they have been hitting it out of the park with some new models. One of the new models that I think's got the most attention is the G-Shock with its Android Wear OS. Now, I think a lot of people, particularly on our Facebook group, have made comment as if it was the first time, but Casio had a Pro Trek that had the Android OS on it, and they screwed it up. They messed up that release. People weren't sure what it was, but this G-Shock, they've really thought about it. It looks like a sports model, and they've put this dual LCD in it, which I think one of the Pro Treks had before, but basically is always on. So if the battery dies, you've still got the LCD. Have you seen this watch? I'll throw up a picture of it now.
Yeah, I did see it. It looks cool. It looks very G-Shock, which is great.
Yeah, I really like the look of it here. I'm just showing for the audio listeners. I'm just showing this the dual faces on it. I mean, it looks the business. I think they were testing the waters with the GPS driven Rangeman that they released, I think last year. When you saw that old Pro Trek, and I'll throw a picture up here, they missed the mark with that. It looked weird, and I don't think people were, because at the time, which was probably 2 years ago, the wearable watches, the Android ones, they were round, but they probably had a bit more of a business professional look, didn't they? They weren't going for a rugged look.
Yeah, I think they were. I think they were trying to soften the image a little more higher tech, maybe than that, than the sort of a typical G-Shock look to it.
Yeah, and
there's among my friends, I know I think there's a Fossil that does the dual display, and as soon as I saw that technology, I really think that that's the winning combination. Where you have the LCD that's low power, that's always on, it's always a watch. You don't have to worry about it. Maybe it does low power Bluetooth, and it can just, even with a dead charge, the thing can still connect and hear your phone fine, like give you some sort of indication, alarm, status, etc. and then have the battery in it that can go the distance for a full screen, pull up the full screen map, information, etc. I think that as far as the future of smartwatches, as far as the future of like ruggedized everyday wear, tool watch smartwatches, I think that's the way to go. I'm glad that G-Shock jumped on this. You're totally right with the ProTrek line. I feel like they missed it maybe 5 years ago, and we're all like, and then we see these releases, where they're doing the design and the fashion stuff great, but then we're like, guys, where's the technology? And then I think it was a couple years ago, they did the GPS technology. So, okay, we don't need to listen to a radio signal. We can tune in directly to GPS. And I think both of us were like, okay, that's great. Like, but also, when can I get Android on it?
I'll just throw this up as well. This is their website, and there's a lot of stuff that I don't think has made it into the watch press, but they've done some great releases. They've brought out a women's, I shouldn't say women's, it's a smaller version of the Cassie Oak. So there's a more wearable size for that, because they had a huge hit with that. I think it surprised them. This here it is.
Okay, for women though. They are saying it for women. Okay. Yeah.
And they've got these gold metal G-Shocks. They're bringing out a rose gold one. I mean, that's a crazy price, $600 for that. But they're also going all in with these Master of G ones with these $3,000 G-Shocks, but they're putting, and I like this. We've talked about this before, haven't we, Chris? Where they're putting finishes in that are ancient Japanese techniques for treating metals and things like that, or these ancient Japanese engravings. They're going all in with we're a Japanese watch brand. This is what we're about, is precision and all of that. They're not like faking a history or like Seiko, where they're going all in with flipping Street Fighter or whatever.
Right. Yeah. They're trying to apply some some traditions to it. Switching back quick on the ladies G-Shock stuff. I know tons of women who grew up with a baby G or a G-Shock, and now as a professional, a little older, is totally rock rose gold G's, because they know it's going to be, bulletproof. They know it's going to be an everyday wear. It's going to be, and then it's going to look good, and it kind of gives you a little bit of that nostalgia. As much as men and the watch world caters to men, I definitely think that it should start catering more to women, and women have nostalgia for old G-Shocks just like we do. So
yeah, and there's always that rumor, isn't there, about the biggest selling Rolex is the sort of 26 and the 36 women's watches, as they outsell most of the other brands. And I like that gold G-Shock that they brought out there, the kind of unisex gold one. I like what they're doing, and thought I would give them a shout out, because it's definitely one that caught my eye, and I've not seen a lot of videos on it.
Yeah. Check out the new Casio G-Shock releases. Very cool.
Absolutely. Rolling on to our next story now, and it seems like a couple of months ago, I'd never heard of what a non-fungible token was, and then suddenly everybody is going crazy for these non-fungible tokens.
It's the Bitcoin of 2021, is what it is. Everybody, or it's the cryptocurrency. Sorry, I won't say Bitcoin. It's the cryptocurrency of 2021. Everybody's talking about it.
Well, if anybody's not familiar, a non-fungible token is basically the way to give something an owner, so a digital piece of art. I think, is it the Kings of Leon, or there's bands that are releasing albums as non-fungible tokens. And it, to Chris's point, it's using blockchain technology in that your signature, your ownership of that piece is in the blockchain, and it can never be changed. Now, apparently there's a company, and they've been doing this. I didn't realize this. They've been doing this since last year, but they've been putting tags onto Hublot and Favre Louvre watches, and they're giving the watch a digital passport. So the tag is the non-fungible token, or at least the token that can reference the token within the blockchain. And I think that's really interesting, because I mean, this is the ultimate, this watch can't be forged, isn't it? I mean, if it's
Right.
in the blockchain.
Yeah, exactly. Then it's like when it was created, it has the you can see the timestamp of when, so you can't go back and like, oh yeah, we made 1,000 of them. Oh, but just add 500. You're like, no, that doesn't, like, no, you made 1,000 of them. You made 1,000. That is it. There's all the numbers, and then you have them, and then you can tell if the number is duplicated, and then you have like another way to verify it. So there's like the token that's on the watch, and then the manufacturer itself might have a piece of that says, okay, well, this is our secret token. So it's like, so if this plus this does not equal, then that watch is a fake. I mean, very, very interesting, because I think at one point we had mentioned this, for higher end watch pieces, such as, we discussed Rolex. I mean, these, once you start getting into the $8,000, $10,000, $15,000, I mean, like, you have your car outside has a VIN number on it. Now, I'm not saying that VIN numbers can't be duplicated, but there's information behind it. There's where that was registered. That's where that was transferred, whether it had a lien against it, whether it had an accident. This piece of information follows it. And there are things that you can look in and say like, okay, this doesn't line up, like, wait, it was in Michigan with 27 miles and then it showed up in Florida with 27,000. What the hell happened? And you can kind of figure this stuff out. So, it's certainly interesting technology to add to watches.
I couldn't find a picture of these tags on the. If I can find one during this, I'll throw it up. But I wonder whether they're going to maybe insert an, NFR chip
like
into the watch,
like an RFID.
Yeah, like an RFID
Mm-hmm.
chip into the watch itself, because they've experimented, haven't they, with laser etch things.
Speaking from a technology standpoint, with an RFID chip, then you have a stored ID that's maybe buried inside the watch someplace. Is it, again, is this forgeable? I mean, yes, like you can certainly try, but then it can respond to cryptographic information. So then you have like a challenge response situation, and like, good luck forging that, because then it's like, we gave you this number and then this number spit out, and the number that it spit out is like in a vault in a, in Hublot's, secret warehouse, whatever. So like you can't, again, it's very, very difficult to forge.
There's a new watch YouTube channel that's come out of nowhere. It's called, for me anyway, it's called The Timepiece Gentleman. I'm going to try and, I would love to interview him, but it's a guy who basically, he started an Instagram account around watches, and he's a watch dealer, and now he's very successful. His YouTube channel, he's doing longer form content like we are here, but it's following their day-to-day watch dealing lives, and they're professional watch dealers, and they're getting a lot of all these very desirable Rolexes in, and he has like an interesting perspective on, because he's not an authorized Rolex dealer, he's like grey market, and he had this really interesting perspective on how they get Rolex watches. So what he's saying is that we're imagining that the Rolex watches are coming into the Rolex store and that they're going straight out the back there. And they're like in their car filling up the boot. And he's saying that actually what it is imagine the situation where you or I, we had our names down for a Daytona. And the AD rings you and says, your Daytona's turned up and you only have to pay the list price, which is $12,900, you're getting it from a Rolex. And then suddenly you're looking on Chrono 24 and the thing's like $30,000.
Right.
He was saying like, who would in reality pass that up? That's no matter how much you like the watch. Do you like it enough to leave 15,000 or 20,000 on the table?
Yeah. That's a good point. And the concept that, I mean, this is why you hear those stories where this is why Rolex dealers have tried to sort of confirm their customers, and they're not putting just anybody on the list for that Daytona. They're saying, okay, well, you've purchased a Datejust from us, you purchased your wife's Datejust, you're looking for a Submariner, maybe we can get you this, this sort of like this continual customer, because there's certainly better for the brand and better for the dealer, interested in someone who is going to come to the dealer, buy jewelry, buy the watch, come back, have it serviced, that relationship. They're looking for the relationship. They're not looking for just someone who can list it on Chrono24, because there's a pile of those people. There's an infinite amount of those people. So good point.
Yeah, so then if you've got your non-fungible token linked with the watch, and Rolex say, okay, well, if this watch comes in with anybody else bringing it into us, we would class it as stolen or whatever, because if it does link into the blockchain, it's unhackable. And how do we know it's unhackable? It's not like one of those, oh, this is an unhackable system. No, because there's literally billions and billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin that if somebody could hack,
based on that.
Yeah, if somebody could hack the blockchain, they would be they would be richer than probably Jeff Bezos. Yeah. So the incentive for somebody to hack it up to now is like beyond. It's like the biggest incentive that's ever been had.
Yeah. And earlier you did say NFC, which is near field communication. So you were correct. I said remote frequency or RF, ID. So we're radio frequency. So like we're on the same page, or we're talking about the same stuff.
We're literally on the same wavelength.
Yes.
We were on this. Well,
on the same nerd wavelength.
On the same nerd. So, but it does bring up an interesting point, that doesn't it? Where they're like, "Aha! Well, you the blockchain says that it's not you," and then Rolex, and then you'd be like, "Well, I sold it to somebody else," and Rolex be like, "Well, we only have the key to change it in the blockchain, and that would be $10,000."
Yeah, no, it's an interesting catch-22 for the folks. I mean, I agree that they need to do more. For some of those pieces, but it's an interesting catch-22 because they're like, if they started doing more, they're like, okay, Chris, I see that you have purchased and sold your XXX, and like literally the whole entire list of all the transactions you've ever done with your watch, and then then you're like, am I bringing my Ferrari in for service? And they have to verify. They're verifying the VIN number. It's like it's like that next step, and then you're like, I'm like, now you're like afraid to sell it without telling the dealer.
Yeah, exactly. Or they're like, oh, sorry, the Ferraritron 4000 system is
down. Or it just automatically voids the warranty.
Or locks you out the car.
Switzerland. Yeah, locks you out. Your watch just stops. The watch just stops. You're like, oh no.
Yeah, the car just drives itself back to the dealer.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, let's. This is our a final story for today. A few watch companies had a poke at the April the 1st watch release. Walbrook did a pretty cool job of it. I thought they released this. It was definitely a joke, and I actually messaged them on Instagram saying, I hope this has got a 2,000 meter water resistance so I can wash my hands with it on. And they went, if you pre-order it, we'll add another 100 meters on for you. I thought that was just hilarious.
That's good. At least they're playing it up. Yeah.
So anyway, Hodinkee, of course, they had a pop at this. And why did I say it was ironic? It's ironic because you'd expect them to actually release a watch like this and make it limited edition. Like, I bet you if they put like a buy it now, they would have fictitiously got about 1,000. It seems like almost every single limited edition release they do of like a normal watch is like a joke that they're playing on people.
What's interesting about this? This is kind of deep. So if you look at it on the screen, and for those of you listening, definitely like pull this up. It looks like it was done in paint. Like, it doesn't look like it was photoshopped. And I think I feel like they did that on purpose, very very purposeful. But also they Photoshop everything. So like it kind of calls out the fact that like that like picture of like John Mayer's G-Shock, like that thing was in Lightroom. That thing is in like Photoshop on a giant screen for 1,000 hours before that picture was posted. So for them to just post up this like corny, like almost bitmap picture, kind of speaks to that. Kind of like, oh, so you guys are photoshopping everything, huh?
I'm amazed that they had a pop at this. I mean, because it shows like a tremendous lack of self-awareness. I think it's like some of the watch brands themselves could have like a little joke like, we're releasing this, and a few of them did. But for Hodinkee, I think it's ironic because, as I said before, I feel like every time they do a limited edition, they're playing a joke on the watch collecting communities.
Yep. And we certainly mentioned, I think 4 or so episodes ago, we were talking about a Hodinkee branded watch, like when that was going to happen. That was just, we had that conversation.
Yeah, so. Like April Fools, we did a Hodinkee watch brand.
Right.
Oh, well, yeah.
All right.
Okay, that's fair enough.
But also, people would buy it. I mean, I try to stay off. I tried to stay off of social media as much as possible yesterday. I just, as like an IT guy, always looking at a computer, I just like tried to keep away from it.
Well, guys, we went over some really interesting stories this week. I'll leave all of the links in the description down below. Head on over to the Casual Watch Talk Facebook group to continue the conversation there. As always, we appreciate you watching and listening, and we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk. Thanks, guys. Bye.